Kavita, just wait for 1 or 2 minutes more, then we will start. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
Here we are starting with the SSAS multidimensional thing, and we completed one class yesterday, and now we will continue with the same SSAS multidimensional mode. Okay, so last day I was getting some error while I was deploying the cube. Okay, so there was some error with my system, but today I fixed all the things and now we are good to go. Okay, so I will do the things again. Okay, because the existing cube which we designed yesterday is not working. Okay, so I have to create this cube again. Okay, so I think this is a new thing for Priya, but for Kavita, you are familiar with it. So no issues. I will do the things which we did yesterday. Very quickly, I will try to cover up. So you people just watch my steps, and side by side I will discuss the things also. I'm closing this project. Else let it be. Right click on it. So we will select the multi-dimensional from this new project analysis services, and then multi-dimensional project, give some name, sample underscore underscore new. Okay. So now it will open the first screen for the cube, and we will have these folders. So in a multi-dimensional project, we will have these folders. So let's start one by one. So obviously to have the data in our cube, we need some data source. So this folder will contain the source string, which means the connection string to the source. So let's right click on it and click on new data source and click next. And you can create new data, new connection to the database. Okay, so when you click new, so the you can just provide the server name and list down the it will list down the database from that server, and again you can select these things. I'm not selecting this DW because I have already connection with this. So you can select and you can do the test connection as you are ready to go. But I have already the connection with this database, so I will cancel it because we have in our list with the, so select this and click next and provide the username or the credential through which this cube will try to connect to the data source. So I will provide mine. next. So as you can see here, we are just building the connection string, okay, to the database, not to the table but to the database, and that the connection to the string comes under this folder data sources. So when we finish, it will create a new object in this data source. So this object has an extension of .ds. Okay, so after that data source, we will build a data source view. View means we will only select the required table from the database, from that adventure database, because obviously this adventure database will have so many tables, and of all we need only selected tables. So we will create our data source view from that database. So right click on this folder and click source view. Obviously we have this data source, so whatever we will have in this folder, the first folder, you will it will list down here. So we have this, so we will go with the same data source. Click next. Now we can see like the list of table from that adventure work database. So here we will go with the fact internet sales. And to bring it to our queue, you need to select this right arrow. So when you select this, you will have that table in our queue, and select this and add related tables. Now it will automatically find the related tables to this fact internet sales, and of all I don't want this promotion, so I will simply select this and will redirect it back. On the same way, I need dim date fact internet sale. I don't want this. I want product details, currency. I don't want. So I'm just trying to have a one fact with 4 dimensions here, and the 4 dimensions are like dim sales. For dim sales, we are having dim sales territory. It will contain the information about the geolocations, and the product will have the product details, and dim date will have the date dimension like month, week, day, and all the columns. And the customer, obviously it will give us the information about customers. Click next. Now we'll have this. Okay, you can provide some good name if you want, like let it be something adventure works. Okay, so we are renaming the data source view. We are just creating the data source view on this to this folder. So to this data source view, we have selected only these tables, 5 tables from the whole database, from that adventure work database. So click finish. Okay, so we are having some diagram view here. As you can watch here, like these are the relationships, and why how we got these relationships, because we got this relationship from the database itself. There are some inbuilt relationship in that data warehouse. Okay, and that which means that database, and what how this data source view is selecting that relationship. Obviously there must be some primary key and foreign key to that database. You can verify this. So this database is on my local SQL server, and to that we have this, the tables. You can watch to this fact internet says how it is connected. You can see like these are the primary keys, so somehow it is connected to some other table. As you can see, like dim product is connected to this fact using product key. Okay, so in the same way you can, from this primary key and foreign key, this queue, this data source view is detecting the relationship. But if you have want to edit the relationship, simply select the arrow and double click on it. So it will open the configuration edit relationship window, and there you will find like how this relationship is going through. So as you can see here, from the fact internet sales, we are taking the order date key, and that order date key connected to the date key of the date dimension. Okay, and as you can watch here we are having more than one relationship. So these are on some order date key, due date key, and the first one was with the order date key, this one was with the order due date key, and this will be with some ship date key. Okay, so canceling it, I don't want this other two relationship for simplicity. We can have more than one relationship between two tables, but now we are having a perfect star schema. Okay, so as you can see, we are having only one fact table, and others are the dimension. But this is not whatever we are having in this data source view. It's just the schema or the metadata we are having from the tables and how they are connected. We are not having the data. We are not fetching the data from that fact internet sales. So we are just connected to that database, and from that database we are generating a view on that database, which means what we want from the different tables. We selected the required tables, and on that we are configuring how the tables are interrelated. So this if we define this, if we create a data source view perfectly, then there will be no error in our queue. So it's good to design this data source view in a perfect way. The perfect way is nothing but to create a perfect relationship between the tables. Okay, so if there is any ambiguity between the relationship, then you will have some error or some garbage value in our queue. Okay, so as we know, like we have the 5 tables with one factor. So we are good with this data source, and we are good with this data source view. So I'm just minimizing it. Now the terms comes for the queue. Now onto that data source view, we will create a queue, and the queue will contain the data. It will fetch the data from the source. So to have this, simply right click on the queue folder and create a new queue. Click next. Now it will give you some option like you want to use existing the tables from that data source view, or you want to create an empty cube. Empty cube means it will not have any data. It will just create a empty object in the queue folder. So we will use the existing table. So click next. Now here, as from the heading, you can watch like we will select in this window, we will select only the measurable table, which means the table which contains the columns, and that column will contain the measurable value. Measurable means that will contain count, numbers, or something with sales value. So we know like this fact internet sales will have the detail measurable column. So we will select this, and these are the dimension. As we know, the dimension will not have the measurable value. They are the details about the measurables, which means they are the details about the fact internet sales. So we will select only this. Click next. So from that fact internet sales, it is saying like these are the measurable columns. It is selecting from the source table. So but we know like these date key will not have any aggregations. Like we will not apply any sum, count, min, max on these key column. So we don't want these to be as a measurable value. So just remove this. We want to have some aggregation on this order quantity, unit price, and with all the freight tax. Now we want all these columns as a measurable value. So click next. And by default, the other tables, we are having these 5 tables, and from that table it is selecting only one column. Sorry, it's not a column, it's a dimension. It is saying like dim date, and from that dim date it is taking dim date as a table as a dimension. Okay, so the rest tables, so out of 5, We selected fact table as a measurable, and by default the rest table it is selecting as a dimension. So click next. You can have a preview what you selected and what you not selected. So here you can have like from the fact internet you are having these measurable columns, and rest other columns or other tables are the dimensions to that. But we don't want this fact internet sales in our dimension as a dimension table. So click back, and from that unselected, because we know like this fact internet sales contains only only measurable value. So we don't want any dimension value from this fact internet sales. So click next. Now you can watch again. So these are the four dimension, and this fact internet sales as a measurable. So click finish. Now we have created a very simple queue. So as you can watch, like in cubes, we have created an object with adventure works name, and that extension of that cube is the same CUBE. And to the next folder, then we are already having the dimension. So by default, we selected while we were creating cube, we selected dim tables as a dimension. So those tables are there in this folder. So up to now, is there any doubt? We are just walking through the UI.
No, good.
Okay. So the first task which we were talking about in our presentation was is to just create a data source view in our analysis service project. So we created a project, and into that we defined data source, and after that data source we created a data view, and after that we name some, we can rename the table names, and we are on the second step. So we defined dimension, we defined a queue, and now we will add attributes to the dimension. So let's see like what is attributes to the dimension, and how we will review the queue, and will deploy how we will deploy the queue. So come back to the queue. So now we know like this, when we double click on it, so this new window will open. Here you can watch like we have opened this adventureworks.queue. So what are there? So you are having a diagram view of that queue, and this queue has these values as a measurable measures, to which you can apply some or mean some count on anything. And now the dimension we are having here. So these are the dimension, but we are not having other columns from that dimension table. Like you can watch in dim sales territory, you are not having this sales territory region into this sales territory column, sales territory table. So in this dimension measure, we need to have add some attributes to this dim sales territory. The attributes we call that as the columns, the other columns which we want in our dimension. So we can edit from this, or you can simply double click on the dim sales territory from the solution explorer pane, and double click on it, so it will open a window for this dim sales territory.dim, as you can watch here. So we are on this window, which means we are on a dimension window. So here we are having these are the columns from the source view, data source view, and we need to drag some columns from this data source view to the attributes pane. So as you can see, these are the actual attributes for the cube. So simply hold the, we want region and country only. Okay. In the same way for the different dimension, we simply double click on it, and we want full date, we want English month name, we want some year and fiscal year, fiscal semester, quarter. That's all, which means we are having a year, semester, quarter, month, and with the full date. And from this dim customer, so we are adding attributes to the dimension. Okay, so we are doing this step. So for the geography from, sorry, we are on dim customer. So what details we need in our queue, which means from this dim customer, what we want, like what will be the different dimension. So for that we need some first name, last name, and some email address. That's it. You can have more values, more attributes to this dimension, but I'm selecting some simple ones. Now we are on the product name and standard English product name and some color to it. That's it. And now come back to the queue, which means the queue, the object which we call as adventurebox.queue. Double click on it. Now you will have this. So this these two panes to the left, we have two windows here. For upper one is will contain the measurable values, and the lower one will have the dimension. And from that dimension, we added some attributes. So expand it. Now we are having the columns which we added to the dimensions, which means we added some attributes to the dimensions. So those are, we are getting those things here. So now let's quickly browse these things, which means whatever we have created up to now, let's visualize it, what we are creating. So here we are having so many tabs in the queue, which means when we are on the queue object, so when we double click on it, so we are having this window, and into this window we are having so many tabs. So we will cover all, but let's quickly go to the last tab, browser, which means it will give you the option to play with the data, whatever we are having inside the queue. So go to this browser tab. So before that, which means you want to browse the queue. So before that, you need to deploy the queue to the SQL server, SQL analysis server. So let's see how to deploy the queue. We reviewed the queue, like what are the different measures and dimensions. Now we will deploy the queue. After that, we will be able to browse the queue. So as you can watch, I have already connected to my SQL analysis server. As you can see, this is the icon for multidimensional, and I am connected to this, and into this we are having some database. So this one was the earlier one, but we have created our project with some multidimensional underscore new. So we need to deploy this queue onto this server so that we will be able to browse the queue. So right click on the project name, and there you will have an option of deploy. So click on it and follow the UI. As you can see, deploying and processing. You can have some movement into this right bottom corner. So now we have successfully deployed the queue with whatever we have created here to our analysis server. Simply refresh the database. Now we are having the new ones which we are creating. And now come back to this queue. So we are on multidimensional underscore new, and now go back to the queue window. You can close this window. So this was the queue window, adventureworks.queue, and in that we were on this browser tab, and simply click on this. Click here to reload the browser again. Now it will connect to the queue which is deployed on this analysis server. Now we are having the browser tab. So here, how to quickly analyze the queue using this browser tab? We know like these are the these are the measurable values. So here, let's drag this sales amount to this window. Now here we are having the total sum of the sales, how much we got, so, as a sales amount, and now we want to bifurcate this thing over some dimension. So come to this dim date and select the year value from here, fiscal year, and drag it to the window. Now the same sales amount has been further bifurcated into the years, and again you can have some semester and then fiscal quarter to the months. So now you are getting like we have created the basic queue, and we are now playing with the same data. You can obviously in our earlier classes while we were creating a tabular mode, there we were analyzing the queue inside Excel. So that is possible here also. So there is an icon here, analyze in Excel. So when we click on it, then we will have a whole queue into the Excel, and there we will browse the queue as we did in tabular modeling. From here select the sales amount, and from that date table, fiscal year, fiscal semester, fiscal quarter, and fiscal month. So we are having the same thing. In multidimensional we have inbuilt browser inside the Visual Studio, but this is not there in tabular modeling. Okay, so but we have the same option also, like we were doing analyzing Excel in tabular, so we can do that thing inside this multidimensional also, as we are doing here. So up to now, do you people have any doubts, like any kind of confusion?
No.
So we are just creating a queue, and to that queue we have defined what are the columns. Actually we are mm, grouping the cubes, that these, yes, the columns from this fact internet sales, and these columns will be treated as a measurable value, and the columns from these tables will be treated as a dimensions. Okay, so let's go ahead. So we deployed the cube, and we are now browsing the cube. We are on this, and now we will take some modification to the existing cube. Obviously, in practical scenario you will not have a uh, simple situation as we are doing now, but for learning purpose this is good. Now we'll go to the next step. Obviously we are on the browser tab, navigate to the picture. Here now we will edit the measurable columns, which means right click on this. So we have expanded this fact internet sales, and suppose there is some order quantity. Right click on it, and we want to do some editing. So when you right click on the measurable and go to this edit measure, and there you will have an option like by default which aggregation we are applying on this column, order quantity. By default you will see like on each column we are applying some, but if you want to apply something else like uh, order quantity, like max of order quantity, so we can change the aggregation type. Click OK. Now again go back to this browser, and now select that Before that, I need to refresh. And we change the order quantity, which means this order quantity measure will have max of order quantity. So drag it here. So you can see here, like in fiscal 2010, we were having in this fiscal February month, we are having order with 144 quantity to that order. That a single order was there, and with that order we are having 144 as a maximum quantity. And how we are saying this, because we have changed the property of that order quantity by right clicking on it, and to the edit measures we have changed the usage, which means earlier it was some, now we are applying some maximum of order quantity. In the same way you can go to the different others also. Select unit price, right click on it, edit measure. You can see like on each thing we are having the sum. By default we are summing the columns, summing the values from the columns. Okay, now come to this dimension. Now we will edit some properties of the dimensions. Double click on it. In the same way, right click on it, at usage and all. Now next we will see like how to create hierarchy. Earlier we have created hierarchy on data or date dimension. Okay, so we created that same thing in tabular, and now we will create the same with the date dimension. So let's quickly create to create a hierarchy. Here you need to drag that hierarchy from this fiscal year to this band. Fiscal year, and after that we need semester, fiscal quarter, and fiscal month. Name it something. Year, semester, quarter, and month. Now again go back to the queue window. There you will have a hierarchy which we created. Okay, and now go back to the browser and quickly analyze. Refresh it, and from the dim date process the queue. So now we are creating, because in tabular the things were easy. In the same window we are having so many options, but now we are having for each kind of work we are having different windows. So that's why this working with the multi-dimensional, you will have so many windows. Back to Now we are having that dimension in the hierarchy which we created. We created some hierarchy. So when we drag this to the window, we'll have all the 4 columns. But to view the data, you need to have one measure. So again, take the sales amount. So the advantage of creating hierarchy is nothing but whenever you want to track one column, and after that one simple dimension, you will have order, like after a year you will have semester and that fiscal quarter and monthly. But if you want to do in some another way, you can grab one by one also. Okay. So up to now, do people have any doubts? We are not having anything unique, but we are creating the same thing which we created in Tabular, but the methods are different. You can again analyze in this Excel, simply right click on any cell and refresh. And you can have those fields here also. As you can watch here, like we are having YSQM. We created in this as a hierarchy, and the rest field are in this folder. So if you want to select these things, earlier we were selecting four columns one by one. But if you want to have, we know like we have created a hierarchy. So just select this, and by default you will have all these things from which in which we have created year as a top layer, and after that we have semester, and to that we have months. So you can watch like we have predefined the ordering of row columns. So we have almost completed this task 3, and there are some more UI here. We will discuss on that also. So when you are on this object dot cube, so you will have the next window. Now we are on the cube structure, which means what is the diagram view of that cube, and what are the different measures and dimension. When you go to this next tab, dimension usage, now you will have like how these relationship are, like we know like this is the relationship, so how they are connected, how they are being interlinked with the fact. So you can see here like dem sales territory is connected with fact internet sales using this column sales territory key, and in the same way then customer is connected to these fact measures using this customer key. So whatever the measures, whatever the columns, dimension columns we are having through this customer, suppose we are bifurcating the data using first name, that will go through this customer key. Obviously the relationship is built between this customer and with the fact measure using some this customer key, and how you will decide and how you will know like this. If you want to edit, you can edit, like you will click on this dot and you will have the different columns, list of other columns. So you can have so many things. We are having so many relationship, which means we in on to this dimension usage, actually we are dealing with the uh, relationship. So how the measures and measure group and dimensions are interconnected. So when again I'm doing the same. So earlier, while we were discussing yesterday, like we can have many to many relationship in this multidimensional, but it is not possible in tabular. But there is a way around in tabular. So how I was saying, like you can have here, like what is the type of relationship? As you can see, if you know like both tables or the measure as well as the dimension having duplicates, then you should select this many to many relationship. So this multidimensional can create relationship on many to many relationship. There are other relationship though. So this one is the regular, which means it will have one to many and many to one. And the fact is something like we are joining fact with the fact only, which means suppose if there may be some case like a fact table is joined with the same fact. So for that we will have this fact, and this reference is for like we when we have a uh, snowflake schema. In that we have two dimension, which means there are two layers of dimension, the upper and middle and to the fact. So in that case we will select this reference. So I'm just cancelling it. So we are good with this cube structure tab, and here we will have diagram view, and to the next we are having the relationship, how to edit relationship, and next to it we will have calculations. As we were in, while we were in Tableau, there we were calculating some calculated fields. Okay, into the bottom tab we were calculating some like uh, year over year, some different, some simple calculated measures. So we can do those things also in this also. So suppose we will need to have some simple calculated measures. We know like we are having these measures from the source itself, but we want some new measure here. So to create that, you need to come to this calculation tab, and here click on this new calculator measure. So there are so many icons here. You can, when you hover on it, you will have a name. It will pop up the name, what is it for. So when we hover to this icon, it is saying it is for new calculation. So click on it. Now we are having a separate window for it, and provide the name for that. So now we want like what you want to derive. Obviously we will derive from the existing measure. So suppose we want to add something like I want to subtract freight amount from the sales amount. So I'm just dragging the name from this. Suppose I want like I want to subtract the freight amount from the sales amount. So I'm just dragging the sales amount from here, and the freight amount from the same measure thing here, as you can watch in this window. And there are some formatting strings, which means the output will have what type of data. So I know it's related to the currency, so I will select the currency, and the visibility will be true, and let other things as default. Now come back to the cube. Now we have created some new calculated column. To view that calculated column, okay, sorry, calculated measure, you need to process the cube again. Process succeeded, close, close, and to this window, come back to the same cube. You should have that. Let me check why it's not coming. As you can see here, like we calculated that measure, new measure, and onto that you can play with. Like these things, these columns are from the source. So these measures are from source, and we derived a new measure out of the source column. So if you want, like, plot this, click here, and you can bifurcate that with some first name. So in the same way, if you want to have a new calculated measure, so for that you need to go to this window, and from that you will click onto this new calculated measure and make sure like this form view has been selected. So if you get like this, you can have the source view also. Okay, so if you are familiar with the MDX, okay, so in SSAS Tableau we were using DAX, but in this multi-dimensional you need to use MDX. MDX is very similar to what we call as a T-SQL, SQL statement. So you will not have a very difficulty to learn this MDX, but in future class I will give you a brief introduction about MDX as we did for DAX. So now you can see here like we created a new measure, calculated measure, and for that we were the actual back end, which means the back code for that measures, but we created using the form view. Okay, so if you are not familiar with DAX too much, so just go with this form view. And now comes the KPI window. So today we will not create any KPI, but we will work on, I think on tomorrow's class we will create KPI. And obviously there are some partitions we created in the tabular also. So here also we are having the same options and the aggregation. There are some perspective. Okay, so perspective is nothing like it's a view out of cube. As we create view inside SQL table or inside SQL database, in the same way we can have a view out of this existing cube. So we can, and that we call as a perspective. And the next is translations, and next is the browser. So we are now familiar with cube structure tab and to the dimension, and in this dimension we are values, and to the calculation we create some new measures. In KPI window we will create KPI. So you people are comfortable with this cube object. So when you double click on the cube, this window will open. So now you people are familiar with this. So up to now, is there any confusion, like what are these?
No, I'm good.
Obviously there are so many windows there, you need to just watch, because obviously in the end for a cube we will be having dimension and we will be having facts, and in fact we will be having measurable values, and onto that measures we will have dimensions, and how we will, but the method of playing with data is different. Not playing with data, of creation of cube is different. Here in this multi-dimension you will have so many things, but with so many things the stability is good for this multi-dimensional. In the same way you can browse the same cube inside this also. Excel. We created some users. Let me refresh it. With some major new. That is not coming here. We'll see tomorrow like how why it is not coming. But there is no need of Excel to browse the cube, because we here in this multi-dimensional we have a browser tab and we can play with the data. Okay, so today we created from starting from the scratch, like how to have the data source view, from the data source, and how to create a cube, and onto that cube how to decide the dimension and how to add the attributes to the dimension. There is nothing new. Just simply double click on the dim customer .dim object, and you will have this window. Simply drag the required columns to the attribute pane, and if you want, if you know like some hierarchy, then you can drag the attribute, the columns from this to this window, hierarchy middle window, as we created for this dim date. So the method or way of creation is different, but we are actually in the end we are creating the same thing which we created in our tabular mode. But the way of working in tabular is easy and easier, okay. But this multi-dimensional is little bit difficult, but it's not that much difficult. Okay, yes, this point was also good. So here we created a dimension, okay. So this fiscal year, fiscal month, and this. So how in the backend, suppose we were browsing the cube, okay. So here we have selected some fiscal year, okay. Here we simply drag that YQ, YSM, this hierarchy. So how it is going to fetch the data from the backend? So that we can see from here. So if you want, like when we drag the that hierarchy, so for each, for fiscal quarter, it will go back to the source database and it will group the data. Suppose we are having 1 million rows, so it will apply the aggregation, like we want sum of sales amount by quarter, and again it will do the same thing, sum of sales amount by semester, and for the other things. But we can remove this. The optimization part is, sorry, control Z, can't do. Let's delete the red lines. Give me a second, I will explain in this what I'm trying to. So from this fiscal date, I did some mistake here. So leave it. I think for tomorrow I will explain like how to optimize this hierarchy. Okay, so this part is about optimization. So in tomorrow's session I will explain like why I was trying to edit the relationship here. So as you can watch, like I am on the dim data object. So I'm on that window. So here we are having some tabs. So what are these? Translations and browser. You can browse this dimension also. And again come back to the queue. Here you can see like from the date key. Suppose we are having this fiscal year. So what it will store when you further bifurcate this, you will have the year values. Like from that column, from that fiscal year, what are the unique years we are having from the source. So you can see like these are the unique values from that dim table from the fiscal year column. So tomorrow we will further continue on this queue. So today's task was to make you start from the rough and how to deploy the queue and how to browse the queue and what are the different cube structures and how to edit the relationship and how to add the new calculated measure to the existing queue, and tomorrow we will see how to have the KPI and the aggregation, partition, and all the rest thing. So in
Okay.
next two classes, I think in next two classes we will finish this multidimensional. So up to now, I don't think there is some difficulty. Okay, do you people have any kind of confusion or difficulty to understand?
No. Good.
Why we are having a smooth run on this queue? Because we have almost completed the concept or the basic theoretical part into that tabular modeling. And again, we are creating the same thing with some different UI. And in the end, obviously, we will deploy the queue to the some server, and in there we will provide some access to the queues. And again, we will discuss about how to provide the roles and how to provide the securities. Okay, so in next two class, we will finish this multi-dimension, and after that, I think in coming to, which means up to Friday, we will finish it, and from the Monday we will start with the SSRS part.
Okay.
Okay, so the last part will be the SSRS. So obviously we will try to visualize the same existing queue and the same to the same data warehouse, because we know like the reporting can access the data from the queue as well as from the data warehouse. There is no fixed requirement like the reporting will only access the data from queue. You can access the data from the SQL database also. Okay, so we will see the dashboard, we will see how to work on the reporting part. Okay, obviously we will use the Excel and the SSRS thing. Okay, so this Excel is also a reporting tool. So obviously we are using it, but for some UI, smooth UI, we will use SSRS. There are so many options in SSRS. Okay, so we will try to build that. So in today's class, do you people have, again I'm asking it, do you have any doubts? Not doubts, any confusion in the workflow?
No.
Okay, so
Actually,
no issues.
okay.
So no issues. I will obviously publish some document, which means the books. Okay, so do not worry about it because in books you will not have this kind of uh, walkthrough. Obviously, there will be screenshots, but understanding things from that screenshot inside from that book is difficult. But I will provide that documentation also. I
Okay.
think I have already published the book for SSIS. So please go through that book, and that book is good. And obviously, I will provide the same, say, similar book on some SSAS and for SSRS also. If you find like you need some more content or some more documents, then do let me know. I will provide, because I have some more books. So if you feel like you need some more, so I will share that.
Okay.
Okay, then obviously in the end we will have a review session. And do you people want any kind of test work? I don't believe in testing things. But if you have any doubts, in the end we will have sessions or for doubts also, and we will quickly wrap up the all different parts.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, then for today we are good to go. So see you tomorrow at the same time.
Okay. Yeah. Take care.
Okay, then bye bye.